strong. Concrete in the dirt I was raised on. Know how to put in work. Grinding all day, you know it's game on. My skin is thick, yeah, it's tough. Running, yeah, we stay alive. Ain't gotta look nowhere else.
Here we are, episode 2. What is your value? I like that. I'm here with a local businessman. You have heard his voice all over. You don't know it, I promise you, because I don't peg him often. You've seen him on TV in many different ways. He works in a lot of nonprofits locally, over 40 years now. Mr. Emerick, the founder and CEO of Value Mapping.
Oh, Brett, I've known you for about 35 years, and
yes,
that is the most formal.
Thank you.
You've ever.
Well, I couldn't get you to drink whiskey tonight, so we'll just keep it there until the next time.
I've got a stress test and an echocardiogram tomorrow.
I am your stress test.
I couldn't even do coffee, which it was really funny this morning. I woke up and I had to be on the radio actually on WJCT. I awesome opportunity to fill in guest host, and
guest host what?
It was first.
We have time here, so
oh, that's right.
Yeah, this is not like a 30-second.
My life is in 30-second and 60-second increments, and believe me, let's just not go further than that.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, but so I was on WJCT and First Coast Connect, and amazing show. Ann Schindler's the host. She does a great job. Anyway, I'm like, oh man, I can eat my coffee in the morning, and then I set myself an alarm because that's what I have to do at my age. I set myself an alarm. No more coffee after this hour. And I'm so stuck on the rules when it comes to my health because I'm a type 1 diabetic. And it's like, oh, man. It was like my test tomorrow is like 7:15.
In the morning?
Yeah, tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And it's like you can't have coffee 24 hours before. And I'm like sitting there freaking out because at 7:45 I was sipping some coffee. So now that everybody, all three people listening, including the three of us, hear and learn about my cardio issues and my stress tests, I'm sure the world is in a better place.
Let me tell you something. One day, they will. That's the way I see it. Manifestation. I am getting all into this thing.
Manifestation is, I mean, my God, you can't be an entrepreneur as long as I've known you. When you couldn't see it, you looked around it. When you couldn't find it, you looked through it. And sometimes you just were blind because you're
stubborn as hell.
Being politically correct and nice. But this is
you can say stubborn as hell.
You're blind ass motherfucker. And but you always found a way through, and that is manifestation. And I don't think you can be an entrepreneur without manifestation.
But I couldn't even spell that word when I was doing it.
You couldn't.
Let's get real.
You had a tough time with man.
MANN, dude. That's so easy.
That's Tony Mann is appreciating you. Shout out to Tony Mann. Tony Mann used to be on Y103, Z100 in Daytona. One of the premier, of course, he was all over the APE for years and years, WAPE in Jacksonville.
Yep.
And one of the vintage radio voices of all time in Jacksonville. So he also was the DJ at my wedding.
You brought up radio. Mm-hmm. So would you say that's where you cut your teeth professionally?
Totally. I mean,
what got you there? Who got you in it? Who got you motivated through it? Just a little tidbit of it, maybe, or wherever it goes.
Well, you said we have 15 hours.
I got as much time as you want, brother.
I think that, first of all, it was in my blood, even though my dad died when I was 5. But he was the first voice of M&M's. He was an old boothy announcer back in the 50s. Melts in your mouth, not in your hands. And awesome. He recorded the last known version of The Sorcerer's Apprentice. It was recorded on a 75 LP.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, I know probably maybe there's a fourth listener now, but nobody really understands. But 75 LPs, they were like these big, thick-ass records, right? And but yeah, he recorded that. And my mother would tell me, and this really got me. At one point, I kind of grossed out, but it was kind of funny. She said, "You were born with a microphone in your hand, Alfred, and it was the most painful birth." And I didn't get it at first because everybody would laugh. Yeah. And then I got it. I was like, oh, that's disgusting, Mom. But anyway, I started off as a kid, man. And there's pictures of me with a microphone. In kindergarten, I was hamming it up, busting my lines, just trying to improv. But at 16, there was a hot legs contest in St. Augustine. Dale Wiggins would remember this place. Good friend of mine, Dale. Anyway, grew up in St. Augustine, and it was Sister Sally's, and they had a hot legs contest. And the radio station at that time was 105.5 WSOS, and the DJ was
I love when he does that.
Matt Ray. And I just wanted to meet some women.
Yeah.
And so I came
doesn't that start mini journeys?
Of course, okay. Yes. And I came up to him. I was like, hey, man, I was a busboy. And I'm like, bro, what if you, put me in after all these ladies, my legs? He's like, you want to be in the hot legs contest? I was like, yeah, how funny would that be? Because, there's all these beautiful ladies and then my hairy legs. And he looked at me and he's like, yeah, you just want to get laid. And I was like, well, yeah. He's like, that's brave. And I said, actually, the truth is I want to be in radio. And he's like, I tell you what, you do this and I'll give you your shot. And so we did it. And it's actually very funny. And I made the finals. It was
because it went by the crowd.
Everybody was joking. It was like, yeah, that guy. And at the end, he's like, hey, my name's Matt Ray. Here's my business card, and give me a call. And I was 16. I was a senior in high school at St. Augustine High School. Go Yellow Jackets. And I began doing radio, and I fell in love with it. And that led in through college. I was a GM at our college radio station. And then worked at Y103 while I was in college, which is now 102.9 or something. And then really just got fortunate because, your mentors, Matt, was like, hey, I'll never be in the big time radio. He's like, you are in big time radio. This is in market.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're not even 21 yet. Yeah. So go soak it up. And then this cool thing in Jacksonville happened. And some of you people, now that maybe it's 5 listeners now, WAPE, the Big Ape, was merging with Rock 105, and I was working at Rock 105, and I was working at WAPE, and I was doing the morning show with Hoyle and Fizz, and I was the luckiest guy in the world. But at 22, I got the opportunity to also be the announcer at the dog tracks. So I am 23 years old. I have fallen in love with radio, but my dream was to always do TV. And I'm literally going, oh my God, I've just checked 2 of my dream boxes. I'm in
at 23.
At 23, I'm in radio. I was doing the live announcing at the dog races, and I was hosting a TV show. And all my friends were like, hey, you're going to go to New York? I'm like, why? Why? This is my home.
I'm living the dream, baby.
I'm living the dream. I'm making the whopping money I thought I was making back then.
But well known in the local market.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. But it goes back to your question of it always began in radio. Even to this day, when I was talking about doing that thing at WJCT this morning, I was all gaga and goo-goo to get back in there. Because the voice work and using my voice, it's always been a vehicle with whatever I've done, and it goes back to those early days, learning how to talk on the radio. But the roots were there, man, doing morning announcements in high school, cheering football games and doing funny voices. In college, my first entrepreneurship thing, I would charge people. That was back when you could do the recordings for voices.
Oh, yeah.
On the old tape analog. Yeah, I would charge folks $10 to record their voice answering recording. So
somebody else did that. That is national. I don't remember who it was.
I'm trying to think. We've talked about that actually.
Okay, I'll find out. See, and this where post editing, as we grow, I'll post that up because there's somebody. That's interesting that you said that.
Yeah, it was just one day I'm sitting, we're drunk as skunks, and so I listen to some guys you beep, you push the little tape, and hi, there's a Carl, and I'm like, dude, you suck. And I said, no woman is ever gonna call you back, and you're gonna get every solicitor to, and he was like, well, you're so cool, why don't you do it? And I was like, all right, that's cool. And I ripped it out. And then he's like, oh, man, so you should pay me. And he's like, I'm not paying you, but I'll give you beer. So I did the first few ones for booze,
So
and
he
then I was
paid.
like, then I got money. So
Okay, so
ask a simple question, you get a 20-minute answer. That's my life.
I love it. That's why I was so excited to have you on here, because
Thanks, man.
it is neat to hear about the grind and from someone else's view. And I do know you, but I don't know all your story. And there has been the brick walls. Can we call them brick walls? Or
Yeah, I mean, you and I both think visually. We both use analogies. Brick walls, mountains, whatever you want to call them. There's hurdles that people got to jump over, climb over.
did you see them coming?
Oh, I think. Well, some you don't, some you do. I think you get better at seeing them coming
I agree.
as you get older,
I agree.
wiser, whatever. Maybe
I
you
think it's
say-
wiser. I think it's wiser. I don't know that because I know a lot of old people that are stupid. I mean, stupid. I know some wise 25-year-olds that challenge me intellectually, and I'm not talking about just big words. I mean their thought process and the versus the let me think this through.
Well, you have always you have always been able to articulate ideas, and you've always knocked yourself for the vocab, right? But the truth is, I mean, you spin a web of words, and you're damn good at it. Right?
Well, thank you.
Your brain just operates amazingly still. I don't know.
Smoke
how.
a little weed and it still works. Who knows?
Man, I mean, hey, when we donate his body to science, science is going to go leave his head. We don't want that. There's nothing in there that we can take. It's just spider's web. It's like Charlotte's web of brain cells.
Oh my gosh, all these ideas.
Anyway, yeah, I think you get better, but to me, it's about the intentionality. Dylan, my son, who is one of those really amazing, emotionally intelligent, brilliant.
I like that, emotionally intelligent.
Well, if we're talking neck, that just means you know to wipe your ass, and you just don't tell everybody about it.
I think it's a little deeper than that.
It is, but I just
That was
had
funny,
to take
though.
a chance to go neck with you and say wipe my ass. No, Dylan said, he's like, Dad, because I just turned 57, and by the way, if this show sucks and never makes it, I might be 58 by that time. But, but at 57, as of this date, the 11th of November, 2024.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Time stamping your show.
Yes.
He says, hey, when you look back, what is it that's kind of really standing out to you that you're really happy with? Because last 5 years have been hell, plenty of mountains.
Yep.
And I can really sum it up. Truthfully, I am proudest of the ability, whether it was born into me or I developed it, but always being willing to run into the fire of self-reflection. When I effed up, I wanted to be accountable for it and not run from it. I didn't want to hide from the shadows. I wanted to go into them.
Well, we had some talks.
Oh God, yeah, we have.
I have running in. There was a famous quote, and I'm gonna butcher it, and I don't care because that's what I love about podcasts. But it's a famous quote. No, it's not a quote. Let
By
me
the way,
back
you
up.
never needed a podcast to butcher a quote.
That's absolutely true. I just needed
I
a.
just want to
gives
set
him
the
a
record.
stage
I need
to
a
do
crowd.
so.
Right. I mean, that's why he's doing this. He has made a whole. This thing is now just a litany of reasons to go ahead and quantify and qualify.
Yes.
All the bullshit that.
Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Let me tell you, if we'll get back to it. If we had we'd had a camera the first year we opened this retail building where we're having this podcast and where it's held, it was an absolute reality show.
Oh, without a doubt.
Absolute reality show. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent. It was chaos. That'll be another time, another place. So you're right. I didn't get back to it. I'll learn that. You said, That's awesome.
Self-reflection, emotional. Yeah. So as I look at you asked the question, like, do you see them coming? And I think the only way you see them coming is if you dial in to the mirror. And that for me is like, whether I carried, the hammer and hit the wrong nail or somebody else did, it doesn't matter. I was part of it and I have a role in it. And so I have a responsibility to myself and to my friends, to I mean, dude, I've come to you at the bottom of the barrel going, bro, I mean, hey, can you help me? And we know how tough it is to ask for that.
Oh man.
But what's even tougher is to own what led you to that.
How'd I get there?
Yeah. And damn, I mean, you have to go through what we went to go through as kids. Everybody has their own version of it. Like somebody said to me, oh, do you think it's, or they asked a question once, like, I deal in the concept of human value. And somebody said, do you think it's tougher for somebody that does prison time than somebody that's like lost their business? And I'm like, time
That's
is
an interesting
time.
question.
Time is time. How you lose it, how you waste it, how you savor it, how you spend it. It's all relevant. Okay, yes, of course. Being incarcerated. I've never been incarcerated. I can't speak to that. But time is time, and at the end, when we leave this earth, that is all that we reflect upon. I mean, what do you hear? We read these stories, we read these books. The greatest minds of our time. They all. Very few of them went into the grave and their final words were, damn, I wish I'd had that cheeseburger or I wish I had that extra $1. It's always the same.
The money buys them more time.
Right. And well, but that's also how you left the earth and what you thought of and how you were thought of. Yeah. Right. And so, I mean, we'll wait on this.
Do you put weight into that on how people view you?
Oh, I'd be a fool if I said the answer was no. I mean, yes, I do. The difference is what's the weight and what is it that I care about.
Yeah.
Like it felt and has felt amazing for an entire most of my career, even in high school, to be like, oh man, we know Al, or Al's a good guy, feels good, or hey Al, you were funny. Others doing theater, big man on campus in high school, JU, when I went to college. I am wired to be a personality and to be out there. I've never met a stage or a microphone I didn't like. Shocker. But the difference is, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? I have chosen, not always, I've made some bonehead, stupid, selfish choices, but by and large, I've chosen to use that voice, that pulpit, whatever you want to call it, to lift other people, right? That's a choice. But I still care. Like when I'm done giving a keynote speech or I'm doing a workshop or I'm done here, I want to know that you guys are like, hey man, that helped. This morning when we did the show at WJCT and they were like, hey Al, thank you for being a pro and blah, blah, blah. It was like, that felt good. So yeah, I care.
Validation.
Right? But you can't have one without the other. You can't walk in the light and then just run from the darkness when the shit hits the fan. You got to go, hey, you sucked. Okay. But my responsibility is still going to be equitable on both sides. If I was great and awesome and I made you happy, I want to know why so I can do that more often. If I sucked and I dropped the ball and I let you down, I want to know why so I don't do that often.
So I remember now. And this gets back to running to instead of from. So there was the wildebeest. If you go look up the wildebeest, cows and all the others, they run from the storm. And the wildebeest will actually turn and run to the storm. And they run through it because they know the fastest way through the storm is to run to it. And I thought it was really interesting when lions and everything are attacking them, they will all get very tight. The weak begin to fall, and the hyenas and whatever begin to eat and do what Darwinism does, or Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it. And the young and the unknowledgeable will get in the middle, and they get so tight that the young can pick their feet up, and they are carried by the herd. And so the hyenas and everything, as they cut through the lines and everything, trying to break up the herd, they can't get to the young who can't keep up anyways. So they're so squished together. And I really believe that my life has had, at every point in my life, I've had people on either side of me that have kept me. Some being high powers, some being people that were only in my life for a short time. Some were even what others would appear to call a negative experience. But there's some of those great big boys in the special forces that talk on TikTok and what have you. And his I guess you would call mentor, who was training him and everything, said every time a bad situation comes up, I want you to say good. Good, thank you. Because without that, I can't build the strength. Without that, I can't learn the lessons so I can avoid, and so I can then stand on the stage and be a keynote speaker and be able to tell people how to avoid it. But that's a whole nother message. Having done what I've done, working in a company that had about 57 stores and was a franchising model. And so I did a lot of training, and we would all get together and would build synonyms to try to get people to understand how to educate and things of that nature, how to become one voice, basically.
That was awesome. First of all, I have to do a sidebar. You have single-handedly ruined The Lion King for me now. I mean, now you've ruined it twice. I mean, now I'm just going to go ahead and sit there. I'm going to see Brett Blankenship on The Lion King. And
oh my God!
You're my new Mufasa. Shit! It's like I'm going to be watching the wildebeest, going, "What are they doing? Oh, they're cutting the path to get to the quicker side. I get it. Thank you, Brett, for ruining a show that I've
I don't think they did that on the show, but listen, I watch a lot of silly documentaries.
I jest.
I know. I love it.
I jest and I joke. I'd rib you right now, but I don't want to move the set piece. Anyway, yeah, it's isn't it interesting? I don't remember where I saw this, so don't ask me. But it was a conference. And the gentleman said, "Why is it that we struggle to scale kindness?"
Ooh, son.
And it was really a lift for me because that's what I'm trying to do with value mapping and that's a process, it's a tool. But my mission on this earth, I arrived at it a number of years ago, but it's what I live for every single day. Truly, that's not bullshit. It's to scale value, human value. It is to reconnect to the idea that each of us, through this sum of these things that we experience, create greater impact in our lives than we ever imagined. And when you understand your impact, you then can assess value, right? How do you say if something is valuable if you don't understand the impact or the lack thereof? But we're so quick to just go ahead and say, oh, that has no value, or that person has no value, at a time when human value is really so fragile.
Very.
And yet so much of what we seek as individuals is truly connected to a greater sense of what we bring to the world. And it's marked by the hug when things go bad, the willingness to tell somebody to pick up their bootstraps and give it a shot. You can go, you can do this, you can achieve. I believe in you, and that's what we're seeking, right? But for the context of what we're talking about, if you don't look at when you fell down and you don't break it apart, then it's really hard to learn those lessons.
Because just staring at it, isn't going to give you the answer unless you can break it down and quantify it. And I think as I've gotten into your value mapping, that's what I see in there. And this podcast, tell me if I'm wrong, but I see where you're able to take someone who might not speak your exact language, quantify their value, and then help them project a new language to the outgoing world.
Yeah.
Business-wise and other, am I off?
No, not at all. I mean, it's really a series of questions. I mean, the commodity that we trade in is words, themes, and language. What's a word that most clearly defines the value of blank, right? Like that just asking that one question.
Just people or entities and everything?
When I started first doing it, it was an old tool I used for clients in radio. I was a production director at the radio station at Rock 105. And, these people were sweating their lifeblood for their businesses. And I would ask them. I didn't know what I was asking. I would just like, hey, how do you define the value of your business? And they would look at me like, what do you mean the value of our business? Like, I mean,
You run the
if I'm
numbers
going to
and you
sell it,
Yeah.
you know, and then later on when I was I co-founded with the OneSpark team a creator academy for OneSpark. OneSpark for those
Please
folks,
do. Yeah.
listener number 7 maybe. I'm thinking
Woo,
if we do this long enough we'll be up to 10.
Manifesting.
That's right. We're not losing them. I mean,
No.
unless they're just dying, which that could happen too. But anyway, so so OneSpark was this crowdfunding festival in Jacksonville.
I remember when that happened.
Yeah, it was. Man, that's another discussion. It should have never gone away. But anyway, it was.
I've read a little bit about it.
It was this massive outpouring of creativity ideas and entrepreneurs to be able to bring their ideas to the public to get funded. And anyway, the point is that there was a big gap in the companies and the people's abilities to articulate their pitch,
Yeah.
right? So you would go meet, Brett, who was selling his Christmas tree wreath, and that's what he was doing, and say, Brett, tell me about your business. What's your pitch? And
Well, it's a wreath and it's got
Yeah.
a little. Yeah.
But it was
Got
universal, bro. I
Right.
mean, it was not just
Understood.
it was not just the entrepreneur who was working out of his closet. There was like bankers and formerly successful business leaders, and bottom line is they couldn't pitch their way out of a paper bag. But that was what prompted the idea of like, hey, let's develop a creator academy to train these folks, right? That notwithstanding, once we got into the guts of what was really under the hood, which is I am taking an idea, I am exposing myself, much like an actor does or actress, to the whims of judgment. Buy my product, I'm successful, you love me. Don't buy my product, don't come to my business, you don't love me. Maybe you even hate me. And oh yeah, you can now comment and Google or not Google or do this and that. And so value for so many is just tied to the P&L. It's tied to the number of units you sell. That is a quantifiable measure of financial value, product value. That is the word, though, that gets taken. It's tied to your job title. Hey, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh, that sounds so cool. That's
Yeah.
neat. Okay, that's sexy, right?
Yeah.
I'm a president of one. Oh, great. Okay,
Right.
cool. But it still sounds good.
Right.
Pardon me. Fuck titles. Okay?
Titles.
Titles
What
are,
have I always said?
but you need
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
because if you go shopping at Walmart or Target, you got to have an aisle to send you to the place you're going to go shopping.
Right.
So titles have a place,
Right.
but they absolutely undermine the true impact that a person can have, and it's a way to put people in
A box.
on a box. And so I was like, bump that, man. These people are giving their lives up. They're taking risks. They're many times sacrificing their own health and mindset.
And they have ideas that some of the higher uplings have no idea. The ground floor, it's old school. It's nothing I've created. It's almost like we've forgotten it.
And so anyway, it was that principle that like we have more value and we have greater value, but we've got to redefine. And so that's what I set out to do. I didn't know I was doing it until I did it. And then once it started happening, I realized I had just been on a journey with a lot of other people to basically redefine value, which is to say value equals the sum of what you do or what things do plus the impact of what they do. But that impact has to account for two things equitably. Has to account for a functional output and a feeling output.
Wow.
And when we finish this cast, and there's 10 listeners or there's 10 million listeners, there's going to be a functional impact. But the thing that's going to keep you coming back, the thing that's going to hold you loyal to your brand, the thing that's going to engage is this emotional bond.
Yeah.
And we just can't anymore ignore the heart.
The authenticity
Yes.
is what I'm banking on.
And it's not feel good, frou-frou
No.
stuff. It's no, dude.
No, it's raw.
Because and I have to share this. This is one of my favorite stories. I was working with a medical group many years ago, and I was dealing with a group of the finance team. And they're like, I'm like, listen, there's a heartbeat to your Excel spreadsheet. I can either lead you to it or I can tell you what it is, but I don't want to tell you what it is. And I said, but I'd like to lead you to it. He's like, Al, I love you. You're fun. This is great. But dude, we got work to do.
Just tell me.
I said, okay, that's fine. And I said, does that mean like you want me to just tell you? He's like, no, I just don't buy this shit. I said, okay, that's cool. I said, listen, on your own time, that's good. A week later, he got blasted and his team got blasted because the P&L was off. I said, that must feel like shit. He's like, it felt horrible. I said, pause, time out. I thought there was no feelings and emotions in your business. I said, you put numbers in a spreadsheet. You put numbers on paper. We put stats up for the world to see. We talk about how many of this happens and how many of that happens. Somebody always feels something. And when they don't feel something, we freak out. We worry. So you cannot state that there is not a emotional feeling and cognitive functional correlation. And by the way, the brain is already working. I just put those two processes on equal planes at the same time, which is why it's been very transformational for people. This is because typically it's like, oh, well, let's go do our culture retreat and we'll just make everybody feel good and we'll just do some happy, joy, improvisational. And I used to do that. I get it, right? I'm a big fan. But then we're going to get to work. And I used to hate that. I was like, we're going to get to work. Like team building isn't an exercise. Team building is a freaking state of mind.
There it is.
And I mean, Brett, you've done this your whole life. You have been a leader by hugging people. And then when you had to, you punched through the walls and did that. But you never made it anything more than what it really was, which is if we don't figure out how to lock arms, if I don't figure my own shit out, nobody's going to follow anyway or go with me.
Yep.
And
I don't know that you can build something wondering if somebody's going to come. The old adage of finding your passion and sticking with it and you'll make money doing it, it works. I don't know that it works 100% of the time. I don't care. That's not what drove me. I am a people pleaser in a warped way. I guess as this thing grows, I'm going to figure it out. And that's a little bit of what this journey is about. It's a little of me as well. I love, like, this one industry that we're in. I love our small business people that rent spaces and things of that nature. When they leave, it breaks me.
It's funny, though, because you say you don't, where it's going to go. At the beginning when it's open, you said, I'm opening it, and I don't know who's going to follow me. You said
I don't even remember saying that.
Oh, yeah.
And so that brings me for me, and he will probably see where it ties into the smart words that they use. But all I knew was to stand up and put one foot in front of the other. I knew that there was somebody that was having the same problems and had found a solution. And if I could figure out how to have a solution and put my twist on it and the detail that I've learned through my lessons in life and the mentors I've had in my life, then I'm going to be that much better. People forget, like in business, I'm not just competing against other furniture stores, other roofing companies, I'm competing for the expendable dollar.
Yeah.
There's only so much in each of our wallets. And they're either going to the big boy Walt Disney Worlds, they're going to buy a car, they're going to buy, which he likes that. And they're going to buy a car and or they're going to come to furniture, but they're going to go on a cruise and, learning how to fight against all. I use a lot of words like fight and dig in and grind and all about the grind. And it's a warrior's mentality for me. And until you've walked it and had the knives in your back from men and women that you go, I know where we've been. I know the battles we've been in together. Where did you go? And what he said, and I'm probably going to dumb it down. What he said for me was, it's about the money. And because, man, I'm going to tell you, they love you when they're making a lot of money every month. But you let them miss one, do they add up all that they make every month? And I didn't always. And I started as a renter as well. And so I learned a lot. and learning how to have empathy, but not let it control your business decisions to where you're violating sound business principles.
Mm-hmm.
Because violating those, the only reason I know that is in the last 3 years. All of a sudden, I'm bringing Trick Daddy in. I'm the biggest drug dealer of Jacksonville of all time. I own Orange Crush, with all these gangsters. They think I'm running drugs. And I literally helped a man in a lawn care business, and his son built a thing, and I'm always looking for the next wounded in my walk. I'm a one at a time, and having a brother the way I did and the life that he lived and going into prison and things of that nature, I always look for that because we all want a second chance. I certainly did, and praise, all the higher powers that have helped me. Some are supernatural and others are skin and bones.
I just realized something. Like truthfully just realized this. This is kind of cool. We have connected on so many levels, even though if some would joke we should have never connected. Like, what are you guys doing? But I always tell people I'm a preacher and a teacher. But I'm Jewish, but I'm a preacher and a teacher. Jewish. No, seriously, yeah. But because preaching from the standpoint of got a message, something you are passionate about, and then teaching, you just want to pay it forward because call it mentor. That's what you are. You're a preacher and a teacher. You've always had a voice for, even though it took you sometimes a long way to get there, as it has all of us, the right way. I mean, the right way, meaning the good way that's not going to put you behind bars or in some bad place. But you have effortlessly been there for other people. I shouldn't say effortlessly. You've put in a lot of effort to be there for other people.
But I know what you mean.
But yeah, I mean, and I just realized that's
you
what
don't know
connects
why?
us. That's what connects us. We both walk a similar line to go, how can I lift up another person? And look, I'm for people who don't know us, this isn't the
no, because it's selfish because we know what it does for us.
But it's the unselfishness of selfishness.
It is.
Look, anybody that walks around saying they're not selfish is lying to themselves. Hey, I came here today because one of my best friends in the world, a guy that was in my wedding, who we've gone through war together. We could see each other for a millennium or not, and we'd still pick up. All that's there, right? And I wanted to do this to help you.
Yeah.
But also selfishly, this is fun.
Yeah.
This feels good. Do I expect a return on it? No, but maybe down the road, that's not what's driving me.
Right.
But selfishly, this is good spent time. And so it goes back to, I mean, we said this in the very beginning because we both said a lot. Jesus, you and I on a podcast, that's running. That's like.
Don't even look at your watch. Keep talking. We're good.
Dude, if words were miles, we'd be in Saturn right now. Or maybe Uranus. Boom. Thank you. I do weddings and bar mitzvahs.
If I could only get to the button.
Tell me which one it is. I'll hit it. But yeah, man. I mean, it's this pay it forward. And
let me say something because I want to keep you on this just for a second because this is a little different look at it. In order to find the broken, you have to stay raw, even when they're hurting. Even when you get stuck, you cannot close the door or else I'm going to miss the next Brett. And that drives me. And I hate it. It is almost OCD. I know it's not OCD, but I'm just like in my mind it's compulsive that I cannot quit. There is someone else, Mr. FSU fan over here. Brooks, one of the greatest linebackers of all time, went to Tampa Bay and I will never forget this. It was an ESPN, I think E30 or 60 or something, and they were interviewing him. And they asked him, FSU was in their greatest days. No, what the heck's going on right now? Good gosh. Anyways, I have not talked about it either. Okay, we're going on to this. So they interviewed him. They said, listen, y'all have won 10, 11 games every year for however many years. And they said, how do y'all maintain such high excellence for so long? Because it's true. I mean, corporate would you? It was great, but couldn't hold it together. many businesses. He said, when I first got here, there was a senior, a junior, an upperclassman, and they threw the rope back over the wall and helped me over. And then, and didn't stop there because that didn't do anything. And just what you said. And then they taught me how to throw the rope back.
That's a great.
Yeah, and that's all
pretty
him.
cool.
That's not me. I mean, and when he said that, and this was a decade ago probably, I was like, holy mackerel, the one voice and speaking the same language from different people with different personalities, and yet we all carry the same message of, I want to help in my field, but you can't if you don't know your value.
Yeah, or you're not thinking about it. I mean, I think a lot of people don't think about it in the terms of value. There's all these different words, but at the end of the day, I still say we need to spend more time. And I can tell you, like, statistically, I can tell you, having done thousands of these with thousands of people, people struggle to really look inside because sometimes it just doesn't feel good, or it feels like selfish, right? Like I just recently, and I won't mention the organization, but it was a really amazing nonprofit locally. And gentleman came up, and we were focused on what's the value that you bring to this organization. You know, what's your value within the story of this organization? Because before you can see your value to somebody else, you have to recognize your own value.
Absolutely.
And we had already gone through a good portion of this, which is really like, hey, you got to understand your impact. So let's go through this. And it's word why impact. What's the word? Why did you choose that word? And then what's the impact, head and heart? And he was really struggling. Everybody around the room that knew him, they were like throwing out words, and he was struggling. And I asked him, I said, are you okay? You feel all right? He's like, yeah. It's just tough to talk about myself. He's like, because I don't view myself this way. Boom. I don't view myself this way. He views himself as this unselfish servant of the community and his organization who's just there to show up and do work and to help guide others. That's so beautiful. But that is that sense of, but there's still a selfishness to that in the most positive and beautiful of ways. But we as people either reject that, or we're on the other side of it where we're like, hey, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. But to even have that dialogue, especially among men, it's like,
boy, that's a big one.
I mean, well, that's the thing that bonded us. You and I always knew that we could have that conversation.
We did.
Early on.
Cried together.
Early on.
Absolutely.
And
I argued with you.
We'd make fun of each other. And I cried probably a little bit more. I mean,
I didn't cry much back then.
But
when I got sober.
Quick sidebar. My older son, RC, he was like, Dad, Brett could whoop your ass. Why does he hang out with you? Because I was like, Brett was so much tougher than Al. I said, yeah, but he cries just like I do. He cries just like I do, and he doesn't. And he doesn't have this.
No, I did not. And
Anyway.
that got me in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
But
funny.
anyway, so the summary of all this goulash is, I think it's like, if we could step off to a point where we could figure out, hey, let's have a conversation around the real impact. Things get faster, things get smarter, sales increase, you learn faster, you do whatever, but then put on the same plane, and this is what it feels like to experience that, or this is what it feels like to not experience that. And have that dialogue, I think we elevate very quickly the beautiful thing. And you can start today. This is my lesson of the day. You start by simply showing up and being present when good things happen as well as bad things.
Living in the now.
Because we're sure as hell easy to sit there and gripe and complain. And I mean, why is it that when you tell a waitress or waiter or somebody, hey, that was fantastic, thank you for this amazing service,
They look at you funny.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
thank you. Nobody ever says that.
Yeah.
I was like, well, you get your tips. You're like, yeah, but nobody ever says it, right?
Yeah.
And so, hey, tips are great. But that other part of it is also telling the people, just like you're going to also tell them when their service sucks, you know? Okay. I'm preaching now.
No, I don't think you're preaching. I think it's being able to take that and then put it into the social side.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had much application in, value mapping and all that you've learned through the years with that and your experience on the social side of it?
Totally. I mean, that's really what I want to actually spend more of my time is on individuals. Businesses are where we go to work. It's where we spend so much of our time, and financially, it's an organization. They're organizations, right? So it just makes sense. But I have talked with people who are losing loved ones. People gone through divorce. I've used it myself when I went through my own personal trials, financially, spiritually, emotionally. I was just talking to a dear friend the other day who's having kind of a faith journey, and he's like, "Hey, I really want to talk about how I kind of realign myself to God because I'm not seeing a whole lot of value right now." And I was like, "Wow! First of all, whoa."
To even be able to say it.
To say that for him was huge. To be on the receiving end of that, what an impact, what an honor. And see, that's the beauty. Once you start having conversations around value that kind of usher in a layer of vulnerability, you realize how easy it is to exchange that value and give that to another person. Something, again, that you and I just did by nature for so many years.
But I think it was because and you and I grew up differently, but similar in certain ways. But we were both searching for the same thing. Validation for me. Validation. I went crazy, man. That the ideas I had and the thoughts I had and the feelings I had worth. Because, for me growing up, a lot of it wasn't valued in what I did. Yeah. It wasn't valued in the business that I did. Everybody talks behind your back. When these people are having, large sums of monies in a business, you're never the fun guy when you're walking in, and you're walking into a store where a store's struggling or something like that. And so the way and this is very elementary, the way I would get people back into the now is I would ask them to tell me stories about the last customer they remembered that was just a wonderful experience. Wow. My greatest sale of all time at Wood U, and I've had some humdingers, man, back in the day in the 90s when, I had a guy pull up a U-Haul going to Virginia military, and he just bought all of it here in Jacksonville to go. Yeah, it was my largest sale. And back then, that was big. But my greatest sale, and we used to write them on hand tickets. It was in the mid-'90s, and I was running a few stores at that time. And might have even been Mandarin, might have been in town. So I walk in, there was this couple, this woman and this young man, and he was looking. I could tell they weren't touching, and they weren't really, hands closed, and out of their league. You just read it. It was, and so I went over, I talked to him for a minute. And they were telling me it was getting around to school and everything. Well, I remembered we had 2 nightstands in the back where the back had been busted up a little bit. And I said, "Hey, I got an idea." And we had a door in the back, and we were unfinished, so you could paint it and everything. So I showed them how to attach that to whatever length they needed for the door, and we would cut it for them and what have you. And it was a $95 sale. I mean, now in today's world, it might have been a $215 sale. And he came back with a picture, that young man, and his mom, and tears in her eyes, and was so grateful. That I have carried many years in the low moments when a customer's just ticked off, or an employee's pissed off, or a new dealer, or a dealer leaves, and and it's all me, and this, I'm blah, 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 the devil. And I remember the good ones. Because I have to be able to, and for me, I don't care how graphic this is. That's why it's all about the grind, authentically raw. I snort it like Coke. Never done cocaine, but I watch a lot of movies. And I just, it becomes a drug for me because I was going to search for it one way or the other. I searched for an alcohol. I searched for a new business, and they call you a workaholic, and they praise you for all that you did. I mean, I could put 18 hours in like nothing. When I quit drinking, I could drink till 2:00 in the morning, be back up at 8, and never a hangover, never. Nothing. I was just ready to go because my motivation was the fear of failure. And it wasn't failure of the business. It was failure of the people's and the end consumer. And you and I've talked about it a lot, that when we talk, I try to talk to people, to the end consumer in one voice, even if I'm not here. And how do you pass that message along through him or through someone else and it be your voice? And it was really cool when we did that video years ago. Oh my gosh, I looked for it. But we ad-libbed that whole thing.
You're talking about the wood.
The finishing video.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I had wood furniture in my house forever.
You know, we probably did close to it had to be 300,000, 400,000 videos we handed out of those things.
Was that the CD you were telling me about?
Well, it was the VHS at first. I really want the VHS, and I'm going to put it out there because it says...
Damn, I should have charged you differently.
Oh, you were so good at the back and forth.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah. So...
How did you guys meet?
Okay, stop. Let me tell you how the softball went. So the Jaguars were coming in town. Jaguars, however you want to say it. The Jaguars were coming.
Wait. I've never heard anybody go the Jaguars.
The Jaguars.
I've heard Jaguars. I've never heard anybody the Jaguars.
Jaguars. Whatever.
Okay.
So we were supposed to, the Jaguars were going to put together a softball team, and we were going to be playing the Carolina Panthers. And I heard about it like probably every local, B-rated softball player, like me out there. And luckily they had nice bats and I could hit decent. And I had a knack for knowing where the ball was. So I was a little bit of a Hollywood out there. I could slide and catch a ball and what have you. And so we're out there and they're doing tryouts. And he was a stud baseball player in high school and in college and things of that nature. So anyways, so he knows baseball better than me. So I'm out there and I'm running around the outfield, and about every now and then I see this little gallop. Bloop, 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 bloop. Oh, this guy just running. I got it! I got it! And all of us, okay, I wasn't a stud, okay, but I knew how to dress like a stud and I knew how to play the part. And I didn't have the cannon some of these guys had. There were some ball players, man. I doubt I ever would have made a team. Then there was in squabbling, got a mess, but. All right, I'll never forget he was on my team because they put together teams. We started playing, and he was on my team. And there's all these, I'm 6'3", right? And back then I was probably about, 230, 235. I was starting to size up a little bit. And here's Al running around this little, and he runs with his feet high, but he's fast. Now, don't get me wrong, the guy could run. And he made the catches. But he was so emotionally hyped. He couldn't sit still. And so I remember him putting his hand in one time because we were like down by like 3 or 4. And for us, for these studs, these guys, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, nothing. Hit 3 on the fence and then 1 over and you're caught back up. And I was like, hey guys. And he's doing this whole pep talk as we're all walking in. He's like, come on, everybody put your hands in. And he's all ready for, like Pee-wee. And we all literally just walked by. I don't think anybody said anything to him. And I'm like, and I was like, who is this dork?
Yeah.
And come to find out, as I've gotten to know him and others, I've come to realize that I am probably the biggest nerd of anybody I know and the biggest dork. And that's why I relate so well to Al. And I fell in love with him because he didn't let that bother. Nobody rattled him. His hype and his emotions just kept him. And so we got to hanging out. And I like guys like that. So,
yeah, we ended up playing softball together for many years. We
many years.
Had a traveling
Did
team.
you play out at Drew Park also?
Oh, dude, we played everywhere.
Yeah, we did very well, and we were a scrappy
we've all
bunch.
Played against each other.
Oh yeah.
We played with each other more than really against each other. I had been a part of the media league softball team forever, which is how I got to that whole tryout thing. And but then one of my clients back then when I had my agency, that was a production house. The guy that Adam, who owns Whiskey Jack's, he used to own Papa Joe's out at the beach. Remember Papa Joe's?
Right on the corner.
Yeah, Papa Joe's was the place. And I was bringing the guys out there because we were playing ball out at Wingate
Yep.
in Seabreeze. And I came up to him one night. I said, Adam, I got a bunch of horses that I could put together for a team. And we need a sponsor. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like $500? I'm like, nah. And I gave him the number. And it was a big number. He's like,
We travel.
he's like, what am I going to get back in return? I was like, well, probably not that because that's a lot of money. But this is what's going to happen. We're going to win. And I'm going to guarantee you that we're going to bring these guys back. And we will walk around and give away all your stuff, blah, 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 blah. But you're never going to get your return on investment. But you're going to have a bunch of champions out in the community that are playing ball, representing your name well. He's like, nobody's ever sold me that shit. He's like, usually they're trying to tell me I'm going to have all these sales. He's like, so you're basically telling me I'm not going to really get my money back, but I'm going to get a lot of goodwill. I said, you'll get a lot of will. I was like, because we're a bunch of drunk 20-year-olds. And we had a team, Papa Joe's. And then you were with Papa Joe's, and then Stellar. And God, I miss those days.
Yeah.
Now we're officially flashing back to the days. Do you remember when?
No, let me tell you something. The 50 and over leagues, these bats, we can crush them because our generation is different than, this generation is learning about health. You've gone through major health changes since your diabetes. Mm-hmm. You've drastically changed your body.
But I ain't going playing softball. My knees. When I stand up, like you should keep recording. Is when I stand up and you hear that noise.
Really?
Oh, dude, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Look, nobody at our age, like you know it. It's a joke, but it's not a joke, but it's real because that's what makes it a joke and it's funny. Like at our age now, you don't get together with your friends, and we've reached that point where you don't get together with your friends and you don't talk about physical ailments. Seriously. It's like the first time you realized you were like, hey, you know what? Maybe I won't drink as much. And then you were like, what? Oh my God, I'm growing up. Now it is like my whatever hurts.
Or you're at a doctor's office or you're at
And we joke, but it's seriously, it's like, hey, Bob, man, hey, good to see you again, Brett. Yeah, what's happening? Oh, man, my elbow, my knee, I'm not peeing straight. And, it's like, seriously, I'm not joking. And anybody that's now maybe up to 8 listeners that's out there knows it's true. I don't know if women do the same thing, but right? But
yeah.
Guys, Dale, I had not. So we're talking about this guy, Dale. It's a mutual friend of ours. So Dale and I haven't seen each other forever and ever and ever. Sure enough, he's like starts telling me about something going on with his neck.
Yeah,
and then of course it's like a chia pet.
Then you have to.
It's
right.
It just expands, right? It's like because you can't.
It's like a kid when you show scars. Oh yeah, well now my ligament on my elbow. Oh well, then I have the knee.
Scars and tattoos. You don't want to ever show somebody a scar. You don't want to ever talk about your diabetes and you don't want to do tattoos because unless somebody doesn't have a tattoo.
Yeah. What is it? Just men you think that don't want to do those talks?
Well, I think women, and I in my observation, and I've spent a lot of time, a lot of women friends, female friends. I think it's more natural for them just to talk about physical ailments because of God, they got the short end of the stick.
They really did.
They got the greatest. They can bring life to the world. Right?
Yeah, but I'm so glad I'm a man.
Oh, dude, we would have no population.
None. I struggle when I drop a deuce every now and then.
You still call it a deuce?
We just lost 3 watchers. I'm an 80s kid. What do you want?
Well, no, at my age, it's a quad. It's no longer a deuce. But yeah, we may be down to net 2 now.
My mom even left. Oh God!
And I wish the listening, viewing public could realize that this whole time I'm looking at a Grinch Stole Christmas, Merry Christmas wreath. Hovering over that is Marilyn Monroe, and somehow I just feel so awkward by that. But that's what happens when you. This is the coolest place. You've got to. What's the
Vintage One Furniture and Decor?
Vintage One Furniture and Decor. So I'm not Brett's not plugging. Like,
No.
He's like, hey, Al, will you give you $5? Will you do this? It's like, well, no, I would do it for 50. But seriously, I live in Bay Meadows. on South Side, and this is a butt-ass long haul to
Yes.
get here, I would make this drive over to come in if I was looking for cool
Well,
stuff.
thank you.
Yeah, no, it's really neat. And I love the outside. I mean, it looks like a little house.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know the history, but
It was a cottage. It actually, someone
yeah.
lived in it.
Well, it is neat. It is one of those. It's one of those neat things. I mean, God knows. I don't know how. And I'm saying you people in the sense of like you folks who drive Blanding. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you drive Blanding Boulevard.
Have you? Yeah, but if you go on Southside Boulevard.
Well, no, I know. And I'm sure that they're saying like, hey, like right now, that is a rat's nest beyond all rat's nest.
Well, we get off Blanding. So we get as quick as we can. We get on 17.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cut
So
I mean,
like,
it's all
Kingsley.
getting it.
like you can cut College and go, but I go to Kingsley and then I cut across Kingsley and then you're back on 17. It flows a little better.
Well, maybe this thing blows up to your 32 viewers, listeners,
There you
whatever you
go.
call it, and then you send a limo to get me next time.
That's what I do. Oh, I do that now.
I know.
Because see, I'm willing to be negative because it, and I love that we're on this because I think as
Are you about
viewers
to turn this into a deep thought?
might, but see if we. It goes away really quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
I know, right? I'm not even smoking.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He doesn't even get the plurality of thoughts out. It's just deep thought.
Yeah,
And then I'm
it's-
on to something else.
That's
All right,
why I
go
have to. Hey, that's why I have to write them down. I mean, if I don't, and I learned that a long time ago. I'm not going to maintain them, and I'm gonna switch again because I do believe this: if you don't come up with the same thought twice, it's not worth writing it down the one time. I never write it down the first time.
I have. Okay, sidebar. Let's just.
I love
pretend
it.
I'm just talking to you. Brett doesn't even exist.
Uh-huh.
I think it would be a wonderful game to keep a scorecard for every time that Brett loses his train of thought or changes his train of thought.
That's true.
Oh, you have no idea how many tally marks there would be on that
No,
one.
do that, and then maybe what we do is we
That's a good point.
find a way to give that to charity.
Oh man, I'd be broke. Be broke.
That
So
put a hurting on you.
So that's where the ADHD idea comes from. But in reality, for me, there's so many spinning plates that sometimes it does. There are
Do you ever
ideas.
get tired though? Do you ever?
Never.
Do you, no. Here, let me finish out. I mean, I know you don't get tired. You're like the ever ready bunny comes to you to go, "Okay, feed me.
I don't even
feed
know
me."
why though. It's not intentional.
Well, I mean, we could probably.
I think I know a little bit, but anyway, go ahead. Do I ever?
No. Do you ever? Do you ever get tired? And this is serious. This is a legit question.
Yeah,
From an entrepreneur's. I'm going to say entrepreneurs.
I like it.
For,
Yeah, whatever.
do you ever just get tired of the grind in the sense of, this is you, this is your path, and there's nothing that's going to change that, but emotionally you realize the toll it takes and it's exhausting and you just get tired?
Ooh. I have never had enough time to stop and think about quitting.
I didn't say quit. I did not say quit. I said just acknowledging the fatigue and
I'll tell you where I get tired.
maybe the time to say, why am I doing this? Not that you quitted.
Yeah.
Quitted? Did I just say quitted?
Yes. You did. Ding,
Anyway.
ding, 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 ding. See, I dumb them down.
Yeah. So no, I mean,
I for me, the weight that wears me down
yeah.
is the spiritual warfare that goes on in business and higher power.
Put that into English.
Not the physical acts
Yeah.
that someone does necessarily. When you hurt or when they hurt, I hurt both ways. And so to know that I've done that, whether it be intentional or non-intentional, and not to be able to fix it is a drive for me. I try not to leave doors half open because if I do, that's regrets. And then I got to deal with them. I cannot leave any doors open. And it allows me.
When you say leave doors open, what do you mean?
I have to have closure in my way.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's probably where I get a little dominant, because I know what I need for closure. I need to know. There was a wise man that once told me, you give a person enough rope to hang themselves.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to make the decisions. Employees, I rarely had to fire them. They would hang themselves, whether it be, and if you allowed them to do what they do and not follow the systems, it would, like, the advice you gave to the gentleman that went the other way. And so my tired comes from the cloak of helping people. I have been sober coming up on 10 years, and I help a lot of people to the best of my ability. And sometimes it's just planting seeds. Sometimes it's talking to a dead tree, feel like you're talking to a wall. Other times there's tears, and there's that gift of desperation, the first God they ever meet. And watching those eyes come on spiritually and business wise, because you cannot divide the two. The emotions is a spiritual aspect in my regard. I'm either afraid of losing something I got or not getting something I want, and it's one of those two. Oh, this didn't come from me. Nothing original that I say. It was taught to me by mentors, and I have people. And I've applied this in my business, in my business side of my life, because I will make bad choices.
We all will.
Absolutely. But I want to make sure that I get an opportunity to avoid that today, where I wouldn't before. I would just make the choice.
Do you journal?
No.
Why? I mean, that I didn't mean to ask.
No, I love. That's a great question.
You don't journal? Is it just like,
I tried it,
adopted it?
I tried it, and there are times, especially the last 3 years, that's all bullshit. I had time to journal. I really did have time. Lazy, didn't want to, no willingness. Yeah, that's the truth.
There is a great book. I'm not the reader I used to be, and I wish I was more of a reader. And I make choices to do other things. Most of my reading now is more business line than the pleasure was before. But one of the best, and probably the book that will accompany me when I write my book, is Atomic Habits.
I've heard that one.
It is really good, and I'm not going to break the book down, but I am going to say that I did not realize that journaling and meditation had become a habit until I read that book, because I never looked at them as a habit. They were just ingrained into, I had to do this because it made me feel good, and if I missed a day, or I missed 2 or 3 days, if I missed a day, it wasn't a big deal. But one day I was like, holy crap. I was looking at my app. I use the Headspace app. And I mean, just today, as a matter of fact, it doesn't matter. It's like 6,000 minutes, 600 something sessions. I'm like, over 4.5, almost 5 years. That's a lot. But
do you go back and read them?
Well, that's just the meditation piece. The journal is a much different story. I could not count. It's a futile. It's pointless. But I started journaling in 2019. I was going through a divorce, and I was losing my mind and losing a lot of other stuff, as you well know. Yeah. And so that's when I started journaling. Now I couldn't free journal. There was too much. My head was just such chaos. So I found this incredible book by Brendan Burchard called High Performance Planner. And he has a journal that goes along with it. And it had structure. It helped me focus. It helped me with my business priorities, but it also has plenty of space to just write. And it really is a blend of head and heart in a page. Since August of 2019, I have journaled 95% of my days.
Wow.
And I stopped looking at the number of pages. But there are literally tens of thousands of words written that document in great detail that journey. Again, to each his and her and they own. But the point is, it's really a journal that's a journey through this space of anger, angst, hurt, understanding, guilt. But the reoccurring theme, which is why I brought this whole rigmarole up, the reoccurring theme is this need to love and be loved. This need for approval, and this need to also share approval. And it's not always pleasant to go there, but I realize that
especially in today's world with, I mean, all the hurt and pain.
Well, and also as an entrepreneur, meaning I'm going to risk this.
Yeah.
You know, when you risk something so great, sometimes you lose.
Yeah.
And like, how do you even set yourself up to process that? And I think it's kind of cool. We're now full circle. It's like that journal has been this reflection pool. That journal has been, and so I'm curious, Brett, and that's why I asked that question, is like, if there was a format that gave you a place to put thoughts onto some space of paper that would help you, because what it's done for me is it gave me blocks and boxes to place stuff. I could not turn it away and forget about it, but I could at least quiet the storm. You know, for me, it's always been, from a business standpoint, it's always been about productivity and prioritization.
Yeah.
Because in Al's mind, all things are possible.
Yeah.
But they're not.
No.
They're not possible. I'm dealing with it now. I've launched, relaunched my company that was doing incredibly well pre-COVID. But I had to realize I could give a shit about growing a company.
Yeah.
That's not my thing. My thing is lifting other people. The company is a vehicle, and there's a part of my company that I just am going to go do. But then when it comes to making, like, if I choose to go, oh, let's go company this thing up, then I'm going to find the right person to run that portion of it. All I want to do is speak and do workshops and write my book and lift people up. Something I used to devalue before, but now I hold differently. I wouldn't have gotten there if I didn't go back and look at those journals and realize, Al, in that 90% of your life that you've journaled, 70% of the time, approximately, the same theme runs underneath it. Why can't you get things done quicker or more efficiently? Why is your to-do list always so long? Why? And I could literally find enough data to tell me, okay, this is real. It's not
There's a problem here.
You can't walk your way through that. Just like the good stuff was.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, yeah, Al, you're drawn to people and people are drawn to you, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You know, you did this stuff with the MS Society, and you went all over the country, people that didn't know you, and you connected. Okay, that's obviously a gift. So go do more of that.
Yeah.
So, but it's having some data to actually, at this point in my life, go, all right, well, if I'm going to quiet the chaos, if I'm going to find that path that brings the joy, I should use some information to help guide me. Anyway.
No, what John Lahan, what does not get measured will not improve. I mean, if you don't weigh what you do, it's like when I make changes in business.
All the time.
Yeah, when I make changes. Good.
He says that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't get weighed.
Yeah, what does not get measured will not improve. Yeah. But when I'll get in, I'll make one change. I don't make like 5-6 major changes. Mm-hmm. I'll make one change, and then we study. I mean, we count. You know, like in our retail stores, we'll count traffic by the hour, and then our sales. And so, where's our best sales? You know, things that I'm sure there's apps for, but there's something to be said. So it's funny I'm saying this. There's something to be said about that's my first mic pop, to be writing it down. And for me, it's a good learning tool. Interestingly enough, to this day, I file all my files the way you file your files. I use dates the same way you did. You showed me one time when we were doing, I think, the video 2 decades ago, and all my files will have like episode 2, but it'll have the date, the underscore and the date with it. And So thank you. So I will. That was a long time
You're
ago.
welcome. I mean, I have no clue about that, but I
That's
don't
where you
remember
got that from?
Yep.
Because you've been showing me how to do that.
Because now he can do it. I can go find it very easily.
It just always made sense to me. It's like, but I think it's how you remember things, right?
Yeah.
Some people are color coded. You know,
Yep.
I'm like, I can remember. I drove across country 3 times in a 2-year period, and almost the same route. But still, that's, you know, it's a lot, but it's like, it's a big space.
Yeah.
I'll be damned if I wouldn't go, oh man, I hit that on July 15th last year. And sure enough, I would go back and look at the phone and the picture that I took, and it would be within the same date. But anyway.
How long did you stay out there?
Well, where? Which one? I mean, I was in Oregon.
You were in
and then
Oregon.
I was in Arizona for a short bit, but
Arizona was
Arizona was a snip. That was but
the Oregon was there. It was
well.
no, you were running both.
I was going back and
Holy
forth. I was
mackerel,
commuting. And then when I finally moved out, it was pretty short after that I came back. But that's another podcast.
So where does value mapping go?
So value mapping goes, the plan this year is to really aggressively launch the speaking side of the business. What I mean by that is I have a message, and the message is very simple. Each of us as human beings has far greater value than we realize, and our impact goes much deeper. And there's a way to actually achieve that, to acknowledge it, to articulate it, and to act on it for more fulfillment in your life and have more meaningful relationships. And
Do you ever have anybody take all the questions and they realize they have less value than they thought?
so it's not so. That's a freaking brilliant question. It's not.
Like a upper management guy that takes it and all of a sudden he's in a
Well, yeah, and I wouldn't, you know, me being word soup dude, I wouldn't phrase it that way. What happens is people realize they struggle,
they find their weaknesses.
or they can't escape that this is something that's always been there. But also what happens is people also struggle when they put the lens of this on other people. Like there's a real scientific approach to this. It's not just word soup gobbledygook. It's,
Right.
There's a real thing that's happening in the brain and the way that it's structured. And so it triggers a lot, which is why it's so effective. And when people begin to journey, I used to get really disappointed because I'm an up guy. I mean, I've been Mr. MC, I've been rah-rah the crowd. And I would realize like people were like kind of like super thankful and appreciative and applauding and all that, but they weren't like, yeah. And one day I just kind of came up to somebody. I was like, hey, tell me, you look like you really enjoyed it. Like, oh my God, this was so incredible. Thank you. You have no idea. Well, you probably do. This was transformational for me. I said, can I just say something? She's like, sure. I was like, it didn't seem like it. She's like, well, if you're expecting people just to get up, hoot and holler, she's like, you're forcing them to think really deeply. That's exhausting. And that's when I realized, okay, you know, there's a hoot and holler portion that and so that's what I'm doing now. To go back to your question, is I'm keeping the keynote focused on that core message, but starting to use some of my entertainment component to really create an experience, right?
Yeah.
The second piece is, and I need to get on more stages and be in front of more people, you know, more associations. You know, in fact, if there's an association then tell them about Al, this guy. But those are the things that I want to do more of, because once people see the message and they see the energy and they see my compassion, but they're also prodded by like, oh, wait a minute, I need more value for my products. Like right now, we could take anything in this business, any product, and you could turn this tool on it. In fact, I'm going to do one of those before year's end in December. I think I can't remember the date. It's a pitch workshop, basically. It's how to articulate your value more powerfully than you ever had in 3 words. It's stupid ridiculous. If you have a business, if you have a product, but how do you actually go from we're an antique mall And it's super simple, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey,
We call it an artesian wonderland.
I like Artesian Wonderland. I like that a lot.
That's 2 words.
Yeah, but what's the value? What does an artesian one? What's one word that most clearly defines what your business defines the value of your business to your customer? One word. There's no wrong answer. You can pick 1,000 words, but if you had to sum it up in one, what would it be?
God, I need 2.
You can do a hyphen.
I don't know.
There's one that comes to my mind that you talk about.
Say it. Jump in.
You always say this is more of a ministry for you.
I do say it's a ministry.
Okay, let's just pick that for a minute. Ministry. Okay, great. Ministry.
In multiple ways.
What's one word that defines why it's a ministry? One word.
help?
Okay. And if there's this ministry of help, what's the one word that defines the impact of the business?
One word. I want to say human welfare.
Freedom?
Freedom. Security.
Security. Okay, I'll give
Because
you the
security's broader. I can wiggle it into a couple of different spots. Financial security, emotional security.
Okay, so first of all, you just built a framework that most people would be, I know you wouldn't be, but most people would be like, what do you do? Oh, I own an antique mall or own or whatever.
Right.
Well, if I said to you, and you say, hey, what do you do? I say, I'm an airline pilot. You got an immediate reference point, right? You're probably going to go, well, that's pretty cool. If you said, what do you do? I said, I'm a lawyer. Well, it's a 50-50 shot. You might think I'm a scumbag, or you might think I'm Jesus.
Mm.
Hey, I'm a fireman. Oh, hero.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We're back to those aisles again at the store. Titles, right?
Yep.
What do you do? I am a minister of freedom and security.
That's pretty cool.
Now, what would somebody say? What would the first question be?
What is that?
Boom. Everything in life that's
Yeah.
ever been cool started with, how did they do that? What is that? What is that is an expression of interest. How did they do that is a roadmap to wonderment. Nobody walked into Disney for the first time and said, yep, figured that out.
Yep.
They went, holy crap, how do you do that? First magic show, Doug Henning pulled a 50-cent piece out of my ear. Like, how did he do that, right? And so that's the starting point. But then somebody says, well, what is that? More importantly, you just started to do it. You're like, well, why did I pick ministry? What does that really mean? Is that the word? Well, your why is going to inform the word. The word's just a placeholder. And then the impact.
Do you find the word changes at times as you go deeper?
People, it's, yeah. I mean, you get more words. I mean, usually it's 3 to 5. I mean, when people do these, and going back to your earlier question on people, like the most powerful transformative experience I ever had where we did this exact exercise was I had a friend of mine who's going through cancer, and chemo was just kicking his ass.
Mm. And
I said, let's start creating a value equation for each of your chemotherapy sessions.
What?
And he's like, he had gone through it before. He's like, oh my God. So every session he would go in, every session he would go in, and he would think of a word that most clearly defined what he's thinking. In this case, it wasn't about the value. It was just, what is he thinking? Why did he choose that word? And then what's the impact going to be?
Wow.
And he started documenting his journey of chemotherapy and came away with the value of of cancer to him. Now, he knew this thing is a motherfucker and that it was,
Yep.
but he was actually able to talk about his disease in the language of how it actually created value in his life.
It's so funny you're saying that. I mean, alcoholism and the program that I went through and am involved in is all about staring yourself in the face. And I think that's why I don't have a bit of a problem with that part of the program. Those things I like to buck. But when you get into evaluating with another human being, another man, and you start sharing this kind of stuff, it's scary, and to be able to do it with somebody and then they see things you don't see. And if you have the ability to be an active listener and really be open to, hey, Brett, why aren't you journaling? That'll ring in my head because that is part of that program as well. I have mentors that journal every day and I'll be like, remember 6 weeks ago or 6 months ago, boy, and I always get the smart aleck answer. Boy, if you ever journaled, you probably could look back and see that. And I'm like, dadgummit, those old timers.
But whatever the style is, whether it's journaling or not, I think your point's well taken. It's just being willing to document in some whatever form, be able to think through, give your space. Because this is out of Brett. Like how many times have we had these conversations over the years? Do you know why I want to be more efficient and productive? It's because deep down, I want to really, really, really value the time I'm spending and investing, and I don't want to be wasteful. I've wasted. This has nothing to do with working hard. You work hard. I work hard. We all work. It's to do with waste. I don't want to have wasted this time, right? But I won't get there unless I create the space. And if Brett is always in go mode, then truthfully, you're disallowing yourself the opportunity, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever that number is, you're disallowing yourself the beauty of space that can create more opportunity.
It's funny you say that because
that's just an opinion.
No, it's funny you say that because I will break away. Dave will sometimes be the only one that knows. I'll go, listen, I'm going here or there. I'm just out and about. And it hasn't been recently, but I would fish. And it'll be just for an hour or so. And it's just getting out, vitamin D, getting away. My phone, I leave it in the truck. People be texting me, but I had to have that time. And it was those moments that the ideas come. All of a sudden, I'd be coming back to Dave, and we would rearrange and redo, and how am I going to get this, that, the other done? And I had a roofing company that was just exploding, and how can I get all this done? And there's no way I could have done it had I not known how to prioritize an action plan of here's the greatest necessities, here's the ones closest to the goal line. How do I get this done? Because if it's only with these two hands, I'm screwed. There's no way I can get done everything. If he's not around, and D and all the other people that are in my life, and some have gone on, but they were here and in other businesses, there's no way. It takes a community.
Dave, is that about when you started hiding his fishing pole?
Fishing rod.
Yeah,
Fishing rod.
Fishing pole too, and every time it's a rod.
Did you just sharpen the pencil?
That's the BS buzzer.
It was he called it a bowl. I just wanted to go ahead and get it going.
First of all, I was like, what the hell is that noise? And
that's the BS.
I thought it was your arm. I was like, oh my God, it's a rotator cuff that's tearing.
So this is our BS meter.
I know. Yes, you warned me.
But
and it hasn't gone off one time.
It has. Well, because you're not BS. And I'll be honest with you, the people that are coming, you set a foundation, but there's no BS going to be in here. And if it is, it's going to be a fun night because I'm going to call them on it. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Well, look, you got to remember your audience too, bro. Let's just be real. And I'm not saying this in a braggadocious way. You line up 50 of my closest friends whom you probably know, okay? And they're going to be like, well, Al, he has a higher level of estrogen probably because he think, in his mind because he's such an empath. And no dishonor to any women at all that I would even be in your brood. I'm sorry. Second of all, Never ran for the truth. So I'm kind of like off the chart on that. I don't mean that in a braggadocious way. So, but my litmus test of willingness to have the hug is far, far greater than probably the normal person.
You know why I don't journal? Because
because you don't know how to write. Because you never learned to read.
No, it's this
your
chicken
brain
scratch. I can't read half of what I write sometimes. No, it's there are often times that I am unwilling to look at my faults. And because I know if I see them, I'm going to want to change them. And I'm just wanting to be stubborn.
No, your biggest problem is you want to try to fix shit all the time.
Do you think that's true? You say yeah if you think so.
Yeah. Majority of the time, yes.
Now would I? Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question because this is good stuff. Would I do it if I had people that could problem solve to the degree that it could get done?
No.
Is that a loaded question?
Well, it's kind of like
I felt a little tweet.
Certain ways
Can
you
I-
like your
hold on.
stuff
Yeah.
done.
Oh, here you go.
Hold on, I gotta do this real quick.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's a BS meter.
You answer the question
There's
first.
problem solving. If you had people that could problem solve, it would help a little bit. But you have specific ways you like things done.
That's true.
Control.
Is it control or is it a system because you know what works?
Everything that I've learned from you since I started working for you,
I'm not
it
denying that.
always is about systems. Yeah. It's always been.
And I'll tell you what my brain is. I'm not saying it's accurate because I could be wrong. My brain is the end consumer. Remember, I want them to have the best experience, and I know through trial and error what's worked.
Systems down to you have everybody that works for you walking around going floor integrity.
So let me say this, and then I want you to go. So it sort of covered a little bit about what you said. We actually, what do I call you guys? We're not salespeople. We're tour guides.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Our job is to walk around and introduce them to this wonderful artesian wonderland and tell the intro stories of the people, and then let the weight of what we've developed grow. So if we're not all doing it the same way,
I get all that.
Now cheese hole it.
No, there's nothing to cheese hole here, and I apologize. I shouldn't have cut you off there, but
no, I'm good.
This wasn't about. Systems. I mean, I've known you long enough to know. First of all, and I swear to the Bible, God, good book, Old Testament, New Testament, whatever you want me to. You are next level genius. You are one of the absolute smartest, gutsiest human beings I've ever known.
Dang, Al.
No, I'm serious. I'm dead serious.
I have a hard time accepting that.
You have incredible instinct. You have a tenacity that is ridiculous. My dream for Brett, I'm laughing, I'll tell you in a minute, but my dream for Brett would be, and what I was talking about was more, if that was harnessed in a singularity versus a multitude of dualities English Al, if you were focused on one thing and you were just going to make that the absolute greatest thing ever versus a bunch of things together, at this point in your life with what you know and your knowledge, there is no stopping it. And, but there's always been distractions. All things are possible. And I get that. And I'm being self-reflective here. Not self-reflective. I'm putting myself into this equation because that's been my number one thing. I mean, at one time I had 5 companies going.
Yep.
I mean, there was the Men's Expo that Adam and I were trying to do. There was my production company. Then I started the TV car guy. It's just too much,
see if this holds water. For me, I lost everything at 44 due to no fault of my own. And I had to create. Yep. And I swore there was a gentleman who was really funny. Just a good man. The first time he smoked weed, he totally went bipolar. I didn't know this, but marijuana can actually trigger bipolar. if you have the gene, or I'm not a scientist, or not a scientist, look it up, or whatever. So, I mean, next thing I know, he's waxing his surfboard at 2:00 in the morning. His wife's calling me, and we were in roofing together, and he's gone, and it got really crazy. And the only way I held on was doing the next thing. I could not weather 6 things at one time. And so I had to get singularly focused, and it wasn't this store. This store wasn't even open then, but other things dipped.
Yeah.
But I had to get back on track. And so and the one thing he told me before he went cuckoo, and he literally wanted to buy JesusRoofing.com, JesusFurniture.com. Yeah, I mean, I was in the car with him, and I thought he was joking, like me and you busting out. And I'm like, because he knew I was a Christian. I know he's a Christian. He was dead serious. But he did say this: there was wisdom even in at those times, because you can always find a nugget, even in the worst of the worst. I look for the similarity, not the difference, because it's easy to find a difference in error. You're a different color. You like a different person. You like a different gender. But the commonality is we all want to be accepted. And how do we get there? And it takes a grind. Whether it be socially, to sit down with somebody of an opposing, because you and I don't view everything the same way, and to be able to hear it, actively process it, and then go back and see if you actually are violating any of that.
What's his wisdom? I'm dying. What was it? Is it
his wisdom was multiple streams of income?
Got it.
Because he had lost a couple companies. And from that moment on, when the roofing took off, I began to spread out like a madman. And you're catching the back end of this, I think, because I think it's settled down here the last year.
Yep.
It's starting to, because I am trying to find it. And as like when corporate wood was going away, I was building another boat. I didn't know what it was going to be. Man, I got Don Marie to get me business cards that I was going to sell fluorescent lights. I mean, I was going to do whatever it took to feed my family.
Yeah.
We mentioned in the last podcast, I was scared to death of heights.
Yeah.
I was 300 pounds at that time.
He had me sitting in the truck in case he fell off the roof.
Sure did. I would sit on that roof.
That would not have been good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I actually had my mentor died falling off a ladder.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We can't end the show on that.
Oh, we're not going to end it on that.
Yeah.
I had a question or two.
Okay.
Talent or effort?
What would I choose, or what do I think is the path to the promised land?
You can only get one out of somebody. It's not you. It's the person you're bringing in.
I'll take effort every day of the week.
Yeah, I think that was okay. Listening skills or detailed implementation? That's a good one. So the ability to comprehend.
I think it's listening skills, because you cannot have the latter without the prior.
I love it. That was me. I was saying chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
That absolutely comes first in my book.
Totally.
Yeah. Let's see, what was the other
What
one?
did you say? As a joke.
Oh,
Listening
okay.
skills. But sorry. It's late. It's late.
Yeah. That went over mine. Is controlled chaos good at times?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm being a contrarian to what I just said, which is, the focus. Amazing things happen when there's controlled chaos. Controlled chaos allows us the opportunity to respect stability as much as breathing and not breathing counter each other or complement each other. It gives us the chance to energize, gives us the chance to see what's possible. But you just can't do it for very long as,
Right.
relative. But
Where do you draw your strength from when it's time to plug back into Al and recharge Al?
Honestly, I write.
The journal or just writing in general?
Journal and meditation. No, it's journal and meditation. Now, I'm learning to trust myself. I have a theater background. I have a marketing background. I wrote did commercials forever. We joked in the beginning.
Right.
But truthfully, I mean, it was, do 20, 30,000, 30-second, 45, 60-second sprints, you begin to think in that block.
Yeah. Oh, I watched you whip them out.
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, and so my journey right now is to allow Al to do exactly this. One of the reasons I wanted to do this is just to come here as Al versus the spokesman or the this.
Right.
And I still find myself, and which I love. I'm glad you didn't have the bullshit thing. But when I am at my morning routine and is the same every day. I need to figure out how to consolidate it because I love it so much. It takes longer than it should.
Yeah.
But I wake up, have my coffee, and I stretch and I journal and I meditate. And it's reflective. It plans the day. And there's so much beauty in that. And I am fortunate enough to be able to express my thoughts as equally clearly on paper as I can verbally. It's seamless for me. So that's where I find my comfort. Now there's some other things like, my time with Ashley, my girlfriend is definitely great decompression time. And once a year, I have to get to Cannon Beach, Oregon. That is my soul.
Is that the trails and everything where you walk a little bit?
Well, I do other trails too, but it's the big haystacks. People have seen pictures I posted. It's on my Facebook page now, actually. But there to me, I went there many, many years ago, and the place literally stole my soul. It was just like, in fact, I made a decision that that's where my ashes will be scattered. I was going to be buried, but I was like, no, I want my ashes to be scattered at Cannon Beach. That place has meant so much to me.
So one more little zip question. So had you rather have somebody who is stubborn and locked in their way once you're got them dialed in, or somebody who allows themselves to change their mind whenever they see the data that allows it? Meaning if their gut tells them to adjust 180, this person's not going to work. Oh my gosh, this person has made a turnaround.
Do you mean rigidity versus fluidity?
Yes. You just said it better, that's all.
It's circumstantial for me. I mean, I
Case by case?
I think it's I honestly can't answer. Rigidity over time in the wrong places is stagnation.
Narcissism.
And also I learned through my own growth as a parent, as a spouse. I was so principled and in so many ways that was shit that I brought from my childhood into just experiences. And some of that was like, the kids used to joke me, it's a feet in mud, it'd be like, rah, 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 rah. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, you know what? I was being an asshole. All right, I'll just slide along. And so being too rigid is not the right. But if you're fluid all the time, then you don't have foundation. And so I think I would lean towards fluidity because that's kind of, but at the same time, I think you just actually brought up a great challenge of balance. It's like, what is the right balance of fluidity and
I don't think it's ever stable. I think it's a constant battle to keep it balanced.
And you know what? It's interesting that you asked that because that's really, I think now that's really what I was kind of saying to you before is
don't be so rigid.
No. You've always had this, fierce entrepreneurial spirit, and you've always succeeded and made things happen. And when they failed, that's what I said. Your just resiliency is ridiculous. But it's hard to find the balance, I think, between rigidity and fluidity if you're too distracted. That's really what it was about.
Yeah.
And again, man, I'm just fucking just reflecting my own shit, but
that's why I'm on this journey, Al.
Yeah.
It is as much for me. And I think that's, if people are going to buy into this and really get interested, I think it has to be something that I do for me.
This is great. I think you doing this show, knowing you, you're the perfect person to be sitting in that chair. You're unselfish.
Thank you.
Just selfish enough to laugh at yourself. You're the unselfishness of selfishness, right? And I think that it's a great vehicle because you know how to talk to people, and you are so good at so many different types of people. When I think about who and what the potential is for you to have sitting in this chair, it's just enormous. And you've got the street cred, and I mean life cred, not street cred.
I know what you mean.
But you've got the street cred to be in this space.
Yeah.
And you should exercise that and give that to others and share it and allow them to use your platform here. And I don't have any doubt this will be crazy successful.
So you have walked into last one.
Yeah.
You have walked into a corporation. You've done your whole program, and you've helped people find their values and
Not values.
Value. 2 words.
Oh, it's power. Yeah. Hold
value.
on. I
Go.
got
Please.
So I call it the power of the S. Okay.
Oh.
And this comes up all the time. It's the difference between value and values, and but they coexist and they're reliant upon one another. If you compromise your values, what you believe to be right, how you treat others, then your value is at risk. If Brett doesn't show up honoring the values that I know he holds true, then I will question his value in my life. Conversely, when you live your values, your value can stay or increase. Also, the more value that you contribute, you fuel values that others have.
That right there is heavy and true. That's that nugget. I'm telling you, you start putting time into others and you can't give as much as you can get.
It's just happens, man.
Okay. So last question. So you're in the corporation, and a young lady comes up to you and she's just done. I mean, she's hit a wall. I've tasted that wall. You've tasted that wall.
Yeah.
And I mean, you feel it. I mean, I feel the pain when they do it. What do you say?
Let me make sure I'm understanding your question.
Yeah.
So
She's emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually done. There is no answer. She has a wall, and she has not yet even got to the bottom to even begin to find the solution of.
yeah,
But to get there, she's got to go through, like you said.
So you point.
There's that darkest moment when you're alone and there's no voice you can hear. And it's just a room, and you and whatever you're doing, and there's no safety net.
So I say this with full awareness that I in no way am saying that the value mapping process and the value equation are the elixir for life, right?
Right.
I'm only speaking that I've spent decades within this theory that evolved into a practice. And then I've worked with so many people in different spaces. And what I know is, and we didn't really talk about it in this vein, the work I do is really about helping people find clarity and alignment. Value is the outcome. Impact is the vehicle. You cannot fix, you cannot be aware, you cannot repair, you cannot solve, solution that which you do not understand. And you cannot understand unless you have clarity. It's just logic.
It is the foundation.
Once you have clarity, then you can begin to see what lines up. And that is alignment. I have clarity on a value I feel strongly about, a belief system. I have clarity on a direction I want to head. I can look at Brett and say, does this person align with those values? Does this person align with the path I need to get to? Whatever alignment looks like, the logic train is very clear. You cannot achieve alignment unless you have clarity. Once you have clarity and once you have alignment, you then can take action that achieves an impact of some sort, both functionally and feeling. And that's when you can make an assessment about value.
So there takes a grind to get from there to that next. It looks so small, but that is a huge leap.
But the leap is actually quicker. And this is where I'll call it the plug.
Yeah.
what I have found after, as I said, all these iterations is this process allows somebody to accomplish in minutes, hours, days, weeks, what it sometimes can take weeks, months, years to achieve.
A lifetime.
And so what I would say to her is the following. What is one word that most clearly defines the space you're in right now?
It would probably be fear.
She would probably have a lot of words.
Yeah.
Why did you choose that word? And then what is the impact? When you ask those three questions, word, why, impact, it doesn't matter whether you're applying it to my friend was going through the chemo. What you're doing is you're wiping out the noise that is preventing clarity. Your brain is forcing you to choose a word, which means you're working through. And then you go, well, why did I choose that word? That's your intent and meaning. And
you know what you've done, right? You have gotten them into the solution and out of the problem.
Maybe, I guess.
No, let me help you. You've gotten them out of this. I mean, her problem, I just said emotional, fear, spiritual, financial, physically, and yet you have her working towards a solution even without the problem solved. The action of is the result too.
Oh, wow. Wow. I never frickin' looked at it that way. It's an active versus a passive mindset.
Yep.
That's wow.
Yep. You know, and the big book says faith without works is dead. That always ticked me off. Never understood it. Ticked me off. Don't know why it's in the Bible. Don't get it. Asked a bunch of fancy people, know them fancy words, and they couldn't answer it for me. And that ticked me off even more. So I have gone down this road on why. Yeah. And just so y'all know, I got rear-ended. And so my short-term memory fades. So sometimes I'll look at Dave, I'll forget where I am. So it happened about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And it's gotten better. You should have seen me.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't think of anything. And one day we'll talk about that on podcasts. In between podcasts, he and I'll sit down and people get to know us a little bit and everything. So I need help where I was.
Well, I think we were wrapping up about the lady in the office, and you said that I had gotten her towards into a solution mindset.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But that's that's what I would say to her is it was like, and I say this to anybody, you know, it's like, you don't need a trinket, an app, or anything like that. You know, it is just try it. Next time you got something in front of you, you can't figure out where you're going to go to dinner, Dave. I'm not joking. Like, you can
start on the basic levels.
What's if I had to think of one word that most clearly, yes, it's shrouded in the concept of value, but the structure of the brain work that's developing here, that's being activated, it works. You know, what's a word that defines what I'm looking for right now? Enthusiasm. Oh, okay. Why? Oh man, I want to be around a bunch of people. Okay, well, guess what? All those quiet places that you thought of, that's probably not high on your list.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, what's the impact I want? Oh, shit, I don't know. I'm hungry. Okay, great. Well, what else? I want to be healthy. You know, okay, well, now you got healthy food. And so it just helps chip away at the noise. And I guess you're right, man. I'm going to go put that on the website. But it shifts you to no, I'm not joking. That is freaking those 2 hours of therapy, you should charge me.
Al, you will be a regular on here as much as you'll allow me to drag you on.
And I hope you get 20 shows out of this thing, because God knows somebody's not going to listen to all of this crap.
Oh, they won't. But who listens to Joe Rogan? They watch shorts.
Yeah, no.
And so now once we get the shorts and all, but
I love what you're doing. And Dave, I love that we've got a third party here.
Oh, he's going to be awesome.
That's part of it. And dude,
Al,
this is awesome.
Al, I have known you for a long time. I love that it didn't get into the personal side of it, although it's hilarious and some of the stories are hilarious.
We can do that later.
Yeah, but what I really love is I know who Al is from a business side, and I've watched you from afar, even when you were across on the West Coast, and I knew the struggles that were going on, and yet every time I talked to Al, he was in action. And so now I remember what I was talking about faith without works is dead.
Oh, yeah.
And it used to always irritate me. And then I realized, and I'll end with this, and then I realized that it's not that faith without works is dead, it's that works leads me to the faith. And without any kind of action, I can't get to the faith. I just have to do it. And sometimes I have to do it because he says journaling worked for me. And I have to go, my challenge to people is to go and get in the uncomfortable. Find what you don't want to do and run to it, the storm. This episode 2, we're with Emerick, value mapping. Thank you folks so much. And as always, we are authentically raw, all about the grind. See you soon.
Yeah, I learned to stay strong. Concrete in the dirt I was raised on. Know how to put in work. Grinding all day, you know it's game on. My skin is thick as tough.
Love it, man.
Running, yeah, we stay.
Oh, dude, that was shit.
That
How
was
long?
fun.
How long did we go?
I don't know.
It went for 1 hour.